Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to make Civil War bullet lube. So, what is bullet lube and why use it? Well, when you're shooting muzzle-loading black powder guns, black powder fouling builds up along the barrel, so it becomes a lot harder to load after a while, especially with the new tight-fitting mini balls, which have a much smaller windage. That is to say that the bullet diameter isn't much smaller than the bore diameter, whereas in the past, using smooth bores, you might have as many as a couple tenths or hundredths of an inch in windage. Now you maybe only have a couple thousandths of an inch tops. For instance, the mini balls that the Springfields used were supposed to be about 5.75 caliber, whereas the bore was only 58 caliber. So after a while, it got really hard to load. So what they decided on doing was lubricating the bullets so that they would go through better, be easier to load, and they would also hug the barrel and help with the expansion of the skirts of the mini ball when the weapon was actually fired. So today I'm going to teach you how to make a basic bullet lube from the Civil War. This is supposedly a recipe that was come up with by the U.S. Army Ordnance Board of during 1861. At the start of the war. That is what all the people in the forums say anyways. The mixture is 8 parts beeswax and 1 part tallow. So, this is going to be interesting. I haven't made this before. I just got my supplies in today. And we're going to see how it goes and have fun doing it. So, what is beef tallow? Beef tallow is simply beef fat that has been melted down into a oily state, and it gives the bullet lubricant the actual lubricating properties. So, you can get beef fat from most butchers, most local butchers. Certainly, I believe if you ask them nicely, they give it to you. I got mine from a local Whole Foods store. Most big chain places won't give it to you for health reasons, but that's just where I got mine. So, anyway, the stuff I got here is this beef fat. It's just, they're leftover chunks that they don't want. So you want to get rid of the meat that's left over on these cuts. I don't think it's a big deal. It'll just save you work later. And like some people actually like to cook these up when they render their tallow because apparently they're very tasty. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out when I do that later. Also, there'll probably be some connective tissue in some of these cuts. You want to try to get that out if you can. Again, it's not a big deal. I don't think it actually matters. It just helps, prevents you from having to get it out later when you actually render the stuff. So, to cut it up, I just simply got a cutting board and a filleting knife. And here's a bunch of the meat chunks I cut out of that last piece here. And then what you want to do is you want to dice it up. The guy I looked up on how to make this recommended using a food processor. I don't have a food processor, so I'm just cutting it up by hand, which I'm finding is a little harder than it might have to be. So, but that's what I'm doing for now. And so the point is you want it to have as much surface area as possible for when you actually render it. It'll help it melt down faster, and it'll speed up the whole process, which apparently takes a good while. So I'll let you know how that goes when I get there. As for storing this stuff, the actual fat that is, they recommended for long-term storage freezing it, and they said you shouldn't keep it for more than about 90 days. And when you think about it, really, if you can just go back and get more for free, does it really matter? So freeze it when you're not using it. Let it thaw down to refrigerator to room temperature when you cut it up. This is about room temperature right now, so that's why it has this sort of oily look. But, yeah. So, I'm going to finish processing this, and then I will get down to the rendering part, and we'll resume there. Alright, so, since I hear this process takes so long, I'm just going to go ahead and start the rendering process now. So, it's really simple. What you do is you just get something to hold your beef fat in while it melts, and you want to have it on a low temperature. Remember, you're not trying to cook anything here. You're just trying to melt the fat down into a liquid state, pretty much. That's all it is. So have it on a low heat. If you have gas, put it on simmer. If you have electric, put it on low. I'm going to try doing this outside sometime. When I do, I'll make a video of it then and append it to this video. But until then, I'm just going to stick with this. So anyway, you simply have our pot on a low temperature and we put our fat in. And I'm going to turn the heat down a little more actually. So we'll let that cool down and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so I kind of lied about something. So you want to start your temperature off low so that none of the fat or other stuff sticks to the bottom of whatever it is that you're rendering it in. But once you get a nice coating of liquid, you can turn the heat up to a little bit. So I have it a little above a simmer right now, and I got kind of lazy. So I ended just up cutting that meat I have into strips. Notice all of those meat chunks are gone. And I just I diced what I could, and I just threw it all in here. So I have it on a higher temperature now to help, boil and cook up some of the larger bits and the meat. So this is just my first time doing this, so I'm just kind of messing around. Anyway, so I turned up the heat a little bit, and we're going to take a look inside. And you can see there, might want to turn that down a little bit. But all that oilish looking stuff is all tallow. You can see the meat. That one reason why you want to cut off the meat has a lot of water in it. So that's one thing you got to look out for. Hopefully it's mostly boiling off right now. You can see the little chunks of meat in there, which are going to become fritters. And so we're just going to keep this up for a little while until all the fat melts. And it is, since it's boiling, it's splashing out a little bit, so you might want to use protection. But other than that, it looks pretty cool. So we'll see what happens. Hey, so I kind of skipped a step earlier. So what happened was I had finished, I had determined that this stuff was finished cooking. So all of that tallow was in here with the chitlins now, or whatever the hell these are called. I'm probably not going to eat them. You can see that connective tissue I talked about. See, I think that's what this junk is some of that connective tissue. So yeah, nasty stuff. Anyway, so what I did is I took this smaller pot and I put it right here, and I took a cheesecloth. Now this is a really crappy cheesecloth. I don't remember where I got this. So this one is very loose. I mean, it's a loose weave. But anyway, I just simply put it over this pot and I secured the ends of it so that it wouldn't, fall off while I was pouring the stuff. And I simply just poured the tallow and the little cooked bits there onto the top of it and dumped those back in that pot. And here we have our tallow. And there's powdered cooked bits in the bottom there. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. But so here's our tallow. It's a nice little yellow golden color like it's supposed to be. Yeah, so I'm trying to keep this warm so it doesn't end up drying out on me while it's still in our cooking pots. And I'm going to find something to put it in, and when I can find a double boiler, I know we have one lying around somewhere, I'm going to start melting the wax, and when I do that, I'm going to mix them together, and we're going to make the bullet lube. So, we'll resume there. Alright, so on to the melting of the wax. So this is pretty simple. It's recommended that you use a double boiler for this because wax combusts at about 300 degrees. It sort of goes straight from a liquid to a flammable gaseous form. So anyways, I got a couple chunks of beeswax in there, and they're melting up pretty nicely. And I'm going to wait for them to melt. And I've got my tallow here, which is still kind of warm, but it hasn't solidified yet, which is kind of interesting. And I've got this pot here, which I actually used to cast lead in. I cleaned it out some. Hopefully there's not too much lead left in it. If it is, it's probably just dust and stuff. And hopefully won't get in the way too much of the whole lubrication stuff. And then after a few tries, it'll get cleaned out, no doubt. But anyways, so I'm going to wait for this wax to finish melting. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, according to forums, I keep seeing people, I was asking about the proportion of beeswax to tallow in Civil War bullet lube, and most people cite the 1861 Ordnance Board as having said 8 parts beeswax to 1 part tallow. So we are going to see how that's going to work, because wax is not a good lubricant, but that stuff has like the consistency of water. So we're just going to find out how it goes, and I'll do it the Ordnance Board way, and if I find I don't like it, then I'll change up the mixture. It's going to be a while before I can actually like test fire any bullets lubed in this stuff anyways. So the reason why I'm going to use this pot is it's nice and wide. This means when I actually get to lubing the bullets, I can simply I can heat it up, I can take an individual round, dip it in, take it out, and set it aside for later loading and stuff. So we'll see how that goes, and that's coming along pretty nicely, so it won't be long now before we'll get to that. Alright, so I'm almost done here. What I've done is I'm melting I had to put some more wax in, so I'm melting the last of it there. And in here I put half a cup of tallow, and so far I put 3 cups of beeswax in, and I'm just letting it sit there simmering so that it stays in a liquid state. So I'm going to put my last cup of beeswax in there, and to do that I just have a simple measuring cup. And you can see there's a lot of wax solidified in there. So I'm going to do that right quick. If you guys want to show me how this is going to be kind of hard with one hand, so we'll see how it goes. Looks about right. It's about right, actually. Nice. So before it solidifies, I'm going to put it in here. And get my spoon and try to get the rest of the wax out of this while it's still warm, which I can't do with the comb. I'm sorry if you guys can't see. Maybe you will. I might just edit this part out anyway. So what I'm going to do is just scrape this out real quick, just to get the last of the wax. Because again, like, I don't know how well this mixture is going to work. Let me turn the heat off on that. Alright. So here we are. There's the last of that stuff. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to flip this video over 10 times. So, anyways, here's our mixture of 1 part tallow, 2 parts beeswax. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cool down. And we are going to see what happens. It'll probably solidify after a good while. The tallow seems to have a pretty low melting point and seems to hold heat really well. That's why we put the wax in there, is to solidify it, so you don't just cover your bullets in liquid lubricant. It's semi-solid. So we're going to let it solidify, and then when at some point I will get some bullets, some of my mini balls, and I will reheat this back into a liquid state, and I'll lube them up, and we'll take them shooting. And when I get around to doing that, I will, that's where we'll continue. So, as for now though, just turn it off, let that cool. I'm going to take my wax out, put it over here, let it cool, let that water cool down. That I might put some saran wrap over it just in case the tallow decides to go bad or something, and put it in the fridge. This, you can see, this is our leftover tallow. I took some wax paper to it and put this, there you go, Tostito, there's some advertising for you. Close that up. That's definitely going to go in the fridge. And that, supposedly, if you have an airtight container for your tallow, it'll last indefinitely, so I've heard. We'll see. And so until I get around to lubing up those bullets, that's it for now. So I'll catch you then. Okay, so I lied. Since that stuff doesn't seem to want to cool down, you probably can't see it, but it's only just starting to solidify on the very bottom, and it's been like half an hour now. I decided I would go ahead and coat some of my bullets with it. So here I have 23 of, these are the mini balls. See, there's some mini balls I made that will fit down my Enfield barrel, so they're under 5.77. And these are some mini balls I made that will not fit down my Enfield, so they're probably a little over 5.77 or just at about 5.77, but they should still fit down a Springfield barrel. And so I'm going to lube these guys up with this mixture, and at some point I'll roll some cartridges, and if I get my hands on a Springfield, we will shoot them. So I just thought I would, that last bit was going to be the end of the video. I decided what the hell, I'll just lube these up now, and we'll call that it. So anyways, should be using a set of tweezers for this, but because I'm a stupid male and I don't care for my own safety, I'm just going to do this by hand. That stuff is very hot, and it's got wax in it, so it sticks. So should use a pair of tweezers. I'm going to use my hands as I'm stupid. Don't try this at home, unless you're like me. So just let it go in there past the first lube groove. Oh, awesome. That is, oh sorry, you can't see that. So because the lead is cold, some of the wax stuck to it. Oh, I'm going to have to do something about that bit there. So I might run these through a dye or something later, but that's pretty good. So that's how you dip bullets in lubricant, Civil War style. I'm going to have to look up filling the cavities with wax. That obviously is going to be a little more difficult. As you can see, it didn't fill in when I did this. There's some debate over like the point of that, or if anybody actually did that. So I'm not going to worry about that for now. Just going to get these in around the base and in the lubricant grooves there. These, by the way, are U.S. Burton style mini balls, which were most commonly used in the Civil War, especially among the Springfield wielding Union forces. The Confederates, though, had their own copy of this ball, and of course they used this ammunition if it fit down whatever firearm they were using. So anyways, I'm going to lube these up, and I'll make another video sometime when I finally get my hands on a Springfield, and we'll try shooting these, and we'll see if this lube actually works. So, thanks for watching.